Hi everyone, we are from Group 1 which consists of me, Muhammad Rafiq, and my group mates which is Ming Zubao and Sam Wang. We are going to present to you about the classroom life in Malaysia, classroom life in China, American classroom style, as well as the differences between American classroom and Asian classroom life. I'm Muhammad Rafiq and I'll be talking about teaching and learning style in Malaysia and China. First of all, let's start with classroom life in Malaysia. Classroom life in Malaysia is different than the classroom life in America. Students in Malaysia universities need to wear tidy clothes to everyday classes such as t-shirts, long pants, and closed shoes. Students were not allowed to interrupt in the middle of class to ask questions. It can only be done if the teachers give permission for the students to ask questions. Furthermore, students can only drink mineral water in class and food is not allowed at all except for some special events occur in the classroom. Outside the classroom, teachers and professors will not provide any office hours for students to meet and ask questions regarding the subject. However, students can always go and meet the teacher in their office during their free time in order to ask questions. Students can also email the teacher regarding the questions that they want to ask. Next, let's move on to classroom life in China. Classroom life in China is also different from the classroom life in America. Students in China universities or college were not allowed to make any noise in the classrooms such as talking or pen drop to the floor. Students were not allowed to interrupt the teacher in the middle of the class. If the students want to ask questions, the students should get the permission from the teacher in order to ask questions. Besides that, the students were allowed to drink in class, but the food is not allowed at all because it can cause disturbance in class. Next, I'm going to talk about how is the life outside the classroom in China. Students can ask questions outside the classroom at any time even though the teacher is on a vacation. Normally, the students will choose to email the teacher in order to ask questions. Besides that, everyone in the same class will do the same homework and assignment. It is common for them to do and discuss about the homework together. Normally, the students don't have too much time for the class since they have already spent most of the time with their homework.
Okay, thanks for graphic speech. Then let's move on to the teaching and learning style in America. It seems that freedom plays an important role in American classroom, but to what extent can students be free here? We will find out. Okay, let's start with students. Food is always allowed in the classroom, which makes me jealous. You can drink whenever you need to as well. Some poor posture, like putting up your feet on furniture, is also incredibly acceptable. And what's more, students can decide when to come in and when to leave, even if the class is continuing. The living environment around those young adults is undoubtedly the main factor of their leisure habits. But these behaviors also cannot exist without the teacher's tolerance. Exactly. American teachers will always try their best to stimulate the kids' interests on study, which makes me admire this occupation. For example, physics would never be my strength in my post-student life, but this year my grade of physics class has been higher than ever. Why? Because my physics instructor always put some cartoons related to confusing knowledge in the beginning of our classes. That was really helpful. It indeed aroused my thirst for knowledge. On the one hand, under all kinds of unlimited endurance, students even can ask questions appearing to challenge the teacher. In addition, so many poor behaviors make the whole atmosphere unserious. On the other hand, of course, those behaviors are able to practice thinking skills of students, as well as patience and strength capacity of teachers. Okay, let's move on to the last part, outside of classroom. In terms of the outside, I'd like to mention two things related to it. First one, homework. As a result of group homework, you need to distribute one homework to different parts. And online homework system will automatically change the number of questions. So it's unusual for students to copy others' homework. Second, the office hour. Asking questions isn't acceptable unless it fits the office hour of teachers, which means that you need an appointment for it, or have an individual meeting with the teacher, which doesn't require any application.
My group member mentioned above, I'm here to compare the differences between two kinds of classroom. The first is the differences in class in China and other Asian countries. Uniform is very important. It's the sign of the school, and you can see in the left, this is my classroom in high school. So most times school requires students to wear uniform when come to school and in the class. But in US there is no specific rules. Students could wear anything they want. Also, makeups and decorations are also prohibited in Chinese school, and the student must dress tidy in order to show respect to teachers. And another big part difference in class is students' behavior. In China and other Asian countries, students are required to only listen to teacher without any interruption and doing other things. In class is also not allowed, like eating, chatting, and playing other things. In my school, in my Chinese high school, phones are also prohibited in class, sometimes even not allowed to bring to school. The most important point is students could not choose their teachers, even have no chances to know them. But things get a lot better in US. In US, students are allowed to ask questions and interrupt teacher in class, and it seems to have more freedom to do other things. Students could even leave the class before the class ends. This is a really serious problem in China. If you leave without any permission, you may even face the problem of expelled from school. Also, there are plenty of differences outside of the classroom. It's the first time I experienced set up an appointment and meet professor during their office hours, since there are no rules for these things in China, and students could go to teacher office during the whole weekdays without any permission. There are also no TAs and tutoring system in China. Students could only get help by their teachers. And the last big difference in grading system. In China, there is no GPA and students' grades only depend on their midterm and final grade, sometimes even only for one exam. But in the US, students' grades are not dependent on any single exam. The grades is cumulative and for the whole semester, which could better reflect for the students' grades in my opinion. And all the group members' sources are based on the Nathan's book, My French Man Year, in the chapter Classroom Life.